G'day, I'm Bob from Paradise, and today we're going to talk about Zygocactus, Schlumbergera, you have to say, Schlumbergera truncata. That's this fellow here, growing over here, and they come in lots of different colours. You can see a variation from a purple, that's a darker one, to, I guess that's a mauve. I'm not real good on colours. It's a mauvey one. Very, very easy plants to grow. They are a cactus, so treat them as a cactus. Grow them. You don't have to have a really coarse mix for them, but don't get them too wet. And they flower at this time of year, which we're into winter now. So you can have them outside through most of the year, but when they start to form buds, bring them inside under a bit of shelter, and they'll flower away for you really well. I'll talk about propagation in a minute, but if you want to look at the flower, they are actually a tubular flower. If you look from how they come out to start with, over on this one here perhaps, you can see the long tube there. And when they first come out, they're like this, and they'll stay like that for quite a while, or even the buds are smaller. Up here is a tiny little bud, and then they gradually come out to this size here, and then this size, and then this size here, there's another, and then they open right out to this, which is really something fantastic to look at, isn't it? So that's the Zygocactus. If you they come from South America, but they can grow in most climates here. Probably not really the absolute coldest, but most places. And they still look nice when they haven't got the flowers on them. They're a really interesting foliage. You can see these claws on them. They're not sharp by any means. They're not sharp at all. But so sometimes they're called a crab cactus in America anyway. And over there they call them Christmas cactus as well, because they're June, July is their Christmas time, so they call it Christmas cactus. We just seem to call them zygos. You can grow them in hangers. Here's one here. You can hang them, or you can have them in a pot like these fellas here. That's in a 4-inch pot, and put that one. That's in a 4-inch pot. You can keep it in that for a few years, and then you can go into a bigger pot like that. This one's still in a 4-inch pot. I've just got it there for balancing. So that's still in a 4. When we say pot size, we're measuring it across the top. When you say a pot size, if you say it's a 200 millimeter pot, I use inches as well, but if you say 200 millimeters or 20 centimeters across the top, the diameter of the pot across it, that's how pots are measured. Okay, so that's a 100 millimeter pot, or 4 inches. That one's a 140 millimeter pot, or 5.5 inches. And down here, this is the size we send them out in. It's the white Zygo. Yep. We call that, it's a 70 millimeter pot. It's nearly 3 inches. So 3-inch pot's quite a big pot for sending plants out through couriers and through the mail. So we get quite a large plant in those. That's a white one. It's got a fair bit of pink in it, but you'll see too that varies the amount of pink that you get in them. That's the white one that we're sending out. Another thing you can do with zygos, if you have say you've got a plant in a pot like this one, you've got a plant there coming up here, you can plant some around the edge, and it won't have any detrimental effect on that plant growing in there. So if you've got them on a patio spreading out, and each year they get bigger and bigger, not causing any trouble, and then you've got this spectacular floriada of flowers. It's another way that you can do them. You can even sit your pots around the edges of the bigger pots like that. It's quite a good idea. If you want to propagate zygos, they're really easy. I'll just find one here. So we've got the foliage here. All you do is just twist off like that. Twist off 2 segments. Get yourself a pot about that size, which is 70. That's another 7. That's a short 70 millimeter. Here's some potting mix. This is average sort of potting mix. Doesn't have to be anything all that special. Don't do it in winter, but do it in the spring, in the warmer months, and just plonk that in there like that, and that, keep it out of the rain, under shelter, and just put 3 or 4 in there, and they'll all come away, and you'll get really nice zygo growing there. You can plonk them in the edge of your pot. As I said, when you first pot something up, you can just put them in around those edges too. So you don't have to put a whole, if it's a newly potted plant, you don't have to put a whole plant in there. You just put some of these around the edges. They're quite resilient. So when you take off a cutting like that, which is what it is, a segmented cutting, you'll find it's a really good idea because your plant will actually branch from that spot. If you look, we'll just find some here. See this spot here? See how it's branched there? Well, this would have been a cutting taken off at that point there, so you get it to branch. So it's a good idea to take some cuttings every year and plant them somewhere else, or give them to your friends, and you'll get your plant to branch out, and you'll get a lot more flowers, because on the end of every branch, if you look down here, is a flower. On the end of every one is a flower. So the more branches, the more flowers. And the other thing about flowering is, once the flowers have spent, just about come to most of these is one here. Just take that flower. See how that flower's finished? Just go around them and take them all off, and you'll get another round of flowering. So that'll double the amount of flowering time you get. You can actually do that with a lot of flowering plants. In fact, all of them, as far as I know. The other way to propagate them is from seeds. You don't see fruit on the zygos all that often, but if they cross-fertilise, this is all one species, and all the varieties have been developed from one species, as far as I know anyway. And sometimes you'll get, I haven't got one here, but you'll get a tiny little fruit will form on the end, and that's not a fruit, that we're looking at, but it's probably a little bit bigger than that, and it's quite hard, and it'll be quite a bright colour. And so if you just let that stay on the plant until it's just about ready to fall off, take it off, just squash it, scrape the seeds out, and just treat them as normal seeds. Put them in a tray with potting mix. Don't cover them. Well, when you do cover them, but only just very, very lightly over the top, and then just put some plastic over the top of the tray. Just keep it just moist. You shouldn't have to be watering it much at all, and they'll germinate over a few weeks. So with the zygos, they're a really resilient plant. I recommend them to you. They don't cause any harm, and they're absolutely beautiful in the winter time when you need some flowers and some colour. So remember, you can do it, and please have a go. Enjoy your zygos.